I'm so happy to have you with me today for Paint a Beautiful Picture. Today we're going to talk about teaching and training. Do you know that love has two sides? We've already talked about coins. Every character trait has a good side and a bad, or a side that looks better and a side that doesn't look so great, but it never loses its value. In loving your children, there is extravagant, wild, enthusiastic affection, and there is strong discipline. Those are the two sides of love in a really good and effective parent. I'm going to say some things to you today that might make you upset or with which you might differ, and I am really okay about that. You can send me every comment you want to put. You can put a thumbs down. I'm not going to be upset with what you put, but I am going to tell you what I know and believe as a parent, and we're going to be okay about this. Every human being needs discipline. An undisciplined life often is frustrating, does not accomplish what it might have, and most assuredly, usually adversely affects people around them. My mama was a disciplined person when it came to her schedule. Not so much about her emotional state, but certainly about her schedule. On Mondays, she would do laundry. On Tuesdays, she would bake bread. On Wednesdays, she would iron. She had a schedule, and she was very disciplined about that schedule. As we shared, schedules help everyone in the household to do better. I'm talking about discipline in terms of behavior. So, say you have a child and he's 1.5 years old, and you say to him, "Do not touch that, it's hot." And he keeps reaching for it and he keeps reaching for it. I really do believe there's nothing wrong with smacking his hand, pulling his hand back, and saying, "I said to you, do not touch that." You can expect him to cry, you can expect him to get upset. That's really perfectly okay. It's a correct response to being corrected or disciplined. Okay, now he's 3 years old, and you say to him, "You may play in the yard, but you may not go over into the neighbor's yard." You know the neighbor has a dog. Sometimes the dog is outside, sometimes the dog is not. The dog is on a chain. But we know about kids. They want to get close enough to touch the dog. And so you say, "Do not go into the neighbor's yard." And 5 minutes later, you hear the dog going frantic and barking, and you hear the chain pulling, and you go out, and here's your child within 10 feet of that dog. It is really appropriate to walk over there, take your child by the hand, and say, "Get away from the dog." And then to say, "I instructed you to stay in our yard, and you disobeyed me. So come in the house with me right now." "But Mom, you said I could play outside. I won't do it again." Oh, no, 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 no. Please listen to me carefully. Consistency teaches a child that you're serious. Inconsistency always makes them wonder, how far can they push before they can get away with it? So you don't even give them an inch, because they are going to take a mile or 20. You never give them that. You say to them, "I told you to stay in the yard. You did not listen. You are coming into the house." I don't care how big a fit they pitch. I don't care how bad they're going to act the rest of the day. You are the parent. This is your point of discipline. You bring them in. I don't care what you do after that, but I'm going to give you a couple suggestions. One, you sit them down if you're in the kitchen at the table, and they have to stay where you are. And they're like, "I have things to do. Why don't you let me have my iPad? I can't even watch TV." No, when you were out of my sight, you did not do what I said. Now you are going to stay here in my presence for the next however long you can stand and however old the child is. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. A 9 or a 10-year-old child, 30 minutes. "Well, what am I supposed to do?" Oh, Mama, oh, Daddy, be ready. This is what kids do. And heaven help you if it's worked in the past. It's going to take a good month of you handling it and them handling it before this changes. But you say to them, "Oh, no, you could not do what I said when you were out of my sight. You're going to stay here." And you make sure that they do. And you just steel yourself in your mind for the fact that they're going to be miserable and unhappy, and verbalize this and every other thing that they might do. But you're the parent. This is a matter of love, and discipline demonstrates love, and you're going to carry through. That's one possibility. Possibility number two, they have consequences. You can't go out to play for the next 3 days. Are you kidding me? I'm supposed to go to wherever. Yes, I understand that. But you're not going anywhere for the next 3 days. You have to stay inside of the house. And the third option, which would be mine, but you get to choose for yourself, is to actively discipline them. For me, and I will never apologize this, I'm not kidding you, I won't. You spank them. Now, let me tell you what that means. It doesn't mean you scream and pitch a fit. It doesn't mean you beat the daylights out of them. It doesn't mean you just go off on this tangent and throw them somewhere and whoop them. No. A spanking is a very orderly and well thought out discipline. Here's how it looked at my house. I had a very specific wooden spoon that doesn't bruise, that's pretty much incapable of breaking things. And yes, it had holes in it. It was an antique. It was pretty thick. I would say to my child, please meet me in the bathroom. Here's why you discipline a child out of their general living space. If you go into their bedroom, then they can have an association in their bedroom. If you do it in the kitchen, they have an association there. This is why people used to take the kid out to the woodshed. No association. But the closest thing we have is a bathroom. So meet me in the bathroom. I would sit down usually on the toilet. They would sit down on the side of the tub and say to me, or pardon me, I would say to them, why are we here? And they knew the answer every time. Remember, taking responsibility for yourself means being able to say what you did wrong. And they would say, I didn't listen to you when you said, don't go in the neighbor's yard. Well, what does God say about that? Ephesians 6:1. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. And oh, yes, I promise you, my sons knew all the scriptures they needed to say to me. If they lied to me and they got in trouble for that, lie not one to another, but let every man speak truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another. This would also be in Ephesians 4. Or these 6 things doth the Lord hate. Yea, 7 are an abomination unto him, a proud look, a lying tongue. That would be Proverbs 6:16. They knew. They had to tell me, what were we doing there? And what does God say? And then I would say, okay, well, as the authority of God, literally, appointed in your life to teach you right from wrong, I'm going to discipline you about this. Yes, ma'am. And they had to put their hands on either side of the toilet and bend down. There was no fighting with me, kicking with me, punching me. Oh no. And when they were bent over at the right angle, I would give them a spanking. If they really had a great attitude, they might only get 3 whacks. If they had kind of a belligerent, nasty, horrible, bad attitude to me, they would get 5 or 10. When we finished, I did not yell and scream at them. I did not tell them how, get out of my sight, I'm sick of you. No, they sat down again and I sat down again. And I would say to them, now, you know how much I love you. I love you enough that I am not going to let you get away with bad behavior. I cannot encourage that. I want to encourage good behavior in you. Do you understand why I had to do this? Yes, ma'am. Because you really want me to be a good man. Yes, that's right. And I love you. I love you when you do it right, and I love you when you do it wrong. And very often they would cry and say, Mama, I'm so sorry. And I would forgive them. Most of the time, especially as they got older, we would pray together. And then they would sit in my lap and I would hold them. And I held them as long as they wanted. Sometimes it was a minute. I admit to you, one time when my son was 9 and he did something pretty major, he probably sat on my lap for about 15 minutes. Let them determine. When they get wiggly and squirmy and they're done, then it's okay. You can let them get back up again. And you know what? When I forgave them, it was finished. So the next time they disobeyed me, or the next time they lied to me, or the next time anything would come up, I would not say to them, I remember just 5 minutes ago, or just yesterday, or just last week. No, I forgave them. That is over with. We have a completely clean slate. I will say to you that there were things established ahead of time, guidelines about what we were going to do. So if my son didn't do the dishes that night, and they were supposed to be done, because most of our life we didn't have a dishwasher, the next day his brother didn't have to do dishes because he hadn't done the dishes yet. And if the third day came, and yes, I'm a very patient woman and I have a lot of dishes, and he hadn't done the dishes yet, on the third day, it was the next place that you want to go, whether to your friend's birthday party or to a concert or whatever, you aren't allowed to go until the dishes are finished. Let me tell you how rough this can look. When my son was 16 years old, he had a great invitation. He was really excited to go to his best friend's birthday party, and they were going to go roller skating, which we all love to roller skate. But he hadn't done the dishes in 3 days. So he got up that morning kind of late. He's 16. He was allowed to sleep in, probably about 10:30. And he said, "Mom, I got to be at Matt's at 11." We were in the kitchen. I said, "Wow, dude, that is a major bummer." He said, "What are you talking about?" I looked around. I said, "I don't know if you can get all these dishes done in 15 minutes. Oh, Mom, are you kidding me? I said, "Oh, my son, are you kidding me? When did you think this rule changed?" Oh, he was hot. It's the only time, actually, that either one of my children ever cursed at me. And he said something to me, and I responded back. Needless to say, that day he did the dishes and he didn't attend a birthday party. Do you think I felt good about that? Do you think I didn't go in my room and cry? It is not easy to discipline a child, and it is not easy to be consistent. I really want to acknowledge that to you. But for your child to grow up and understand that you really love them, a huge part of that equation is discipline. So, in discipline, try to make sure that the discipline fits the offense. Be sure that you don't go off and yell and scream and just randomly pick something stupid like "you're grounded for a month," because you know that you can't live with that, and neither can they. And most assuredly, don't be afraid to use appropriate corporal punishment when they are young, because even God Himself said, and you don't have to agree with me, but I'm going to tell you I know this one. If you love your child, you will discipline him at times. But a man who hates his child spares the rod. And since God designed life, He probably knows, and I trust Him about that. If you're very uncomfortable with corporal punishment, or if you have a foster child and you and I both know that it is illegal to use it, I want to encourage you to use the strongest means of discipline at your disposal. A simple 3-minute timeout is not sufficient. And if you say to a child, because you repeatedly refuse to pick up your room, to put the dishes away, you've been breaking things intentionally, do you know for the next week you are grounded? Literally, buy a safe, put the iPad or the phone or whatever in there, lock it up, and say, next Tuesday at 4:45, you can have this back, and put a post-it note right on the safe. Wouldn't you rather do that than think that at 15 or 16 your child is going to get locked up because you didn't have the courage to discipline and now society has to do it for you? You really have to keep the long goal in mind. And discipline is a huge part of showing love to a child. Again, I want you to know, if you live a very undisciplined life, this is probably going to require change on your part. So let me tell you this in the teaching part. It's tough, if not absolutely impossible, to teach something to your child that you yourself do not know or have not yet experienced. Don't be afraid to listen to a month or 2 months worth of everything that I have to say to you before you institute a single thing. If a lot in your life is out of control and out of order, it may be really appropriate to take time to develop in your own mind what steps you're going to do before you begin it. And also that you have determined with strong determination that you're going to follow through and be disciplined in this. So here's your challenge today. Ask yourself, how disciplined am I? And the second part of that question is, am I willing to help my child lead a disciplined life? And again, I want you to leave some space. Give yourself a few days to chew this over and think about this. And frankly, maybe even a few weeks is really okay. And consider, how can I best show discipline to my child in order that they will live an orderly, secure, loved life? You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button. Thank you so much for listening and joining me today.